The Stonecarvers Guild podcast is a part of the Stonecarvers Guild organization, which is a fantastic organization. Don't y'all agree?
Oh, yeah, it's great. And it's cheap, too.
It's well worth the price of admission.
It is, for sure. You can find out how to become a general member at stonecarversguild.org. There's a Get Involved section. And I've been a member of the Stonecarvers Guild since its inception. It's been an unbelievable resource as far as the knowledge. How did you describe it, Joel?
Oh, it's a living library of knowledge that the stone carving world otherwise is sort of hard to break into if you are looking around for it. I'm a general member. I'm not a full-time stone carver, but I love it from kind of a hobbyist, part-time perspective, but looking to learn more, and found that through the Stone Carvers Guild, through its forum, and through being able to connect easily with other like-minded folks like Bethany and Matthew.
Yeah. So if you want to be a general member, it's just $40, and you would have access to the resources, which include the forum, and then you can log on and you could ask Matthew questions on the forum.
Or anyone else.
Or anyone else.
And also there's the annual meeting, which I just love because once a year, getting together and sharing stories is an unbelievable experience. And that's something that's also available to general members.
Attend a general meeting or even become a professional member, which has other benefits as well. You just have to go to stonecarversguild.org and click on Get Involved at the top.
Join today.
Welcome to the Stone Carvers Guild podcast. Here you will meet a variety of carvers working throughout North America. Drawing on our collective experience, we seek to share knowledge about this ancient art and to do our part to ensure that stone carving will play an important role in built environments for generations to come. So whether you are an experienced carver, new to the craft, or just curious, put on your safety goggles, open up your mind, and welcome to the workshop.
Hey, welcome to the Stonecarvers Guild podcast.
So today we're talking to Robin Antar.
Very different background from a lot of the people that we've interviewed, and has taken stone carving in a different direction from the architectural and ornamentation stuff. And really interesting. But I will say that I didn't know what to expect, and thought, wow, this is really, really interesting and thoughtful and emotional.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
We really haven't had a lot of gallery. I mean, she's in some ways a gallery artist, like somebody who makes fine art.
But she does the work herself, which I really like. The people that sell sculptures of stone, but they're sending them off and having them done by someone else. Sometimes,
yeah, right. Yeah, and she really gets into the hands-on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she talks about her studio and her process, and very educational.
So, should we just get to the interview, or do we need to? Should we yammer some more and talk like Mark Maron for about 15 minutes about our lives and our cats?
All right,
cares.
Here's Robin. Matt, do you wear a pink jumpsuit in the stone carving studio?
I have a jumpsuit.
Is it pink? What color?
It's not pink. It's blue.
Oh, it's not the cohort brown, huh?
No.
Listen, I gotta have fun because it's a masculine job and I play games. And I was never a pink person when I was a kid. This just happened a couple years ago. I happened to be in the Color Museum with my grandkids and they had this pink jumpsuit. I said, oh, cool. And everybody thought I was crazy, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Tell us the colors again that you have. You have pink, yellow.
I have pink, yellow, black, and orange. I'm going to order bright blue, I think purple, green, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm going to go on the
nice. So you have to know that I think we've had mostly male guests except Amy Breer. So this podcast, actually male guests and a lot of English accents. So you're one of our few female and Brooklyn accents that we've got. And so we're going to talk about nail polish and pink jumpsuits and everything else female we can.
Listen, you don't understand. I never did any of this, okay? This is something new a couple years ago when I started playing around with Instagram. And my videographer, I wore the pink one. She's like, I love this. Get more colors. So, okay, let me see what I can dig up, you know? And that's how it started. It was just like a game because when you do something so masculine and then you wear these gloves and red nail polish sticks out, I think it's funny.
Yeah, no, that is really fun. And I feel like with the pink jumpsuit, right, because it's definitely a kind of it's a work uniform, right? So it's like hardcore, durable, get messy, and then the pink. I like that juxtaposition. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, I think
Fun.
from what I'm seeing on your website and through your Instagram, that's kind of a lot of your work. You like to kind of have fun with the juxtaposition of things that just in places that are different from the norm.
Yeah, it's funny when you all of a sudden you do an errand. Like I go to do an errand and I jump out my my pink jumpsuit and people look at me in Michael's and you're wearing a pink jumpsuit. It's really funny.
Yeah. You were telling us you're from Jersey, moved to Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, okay. So I was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I lived there till I was 16. I moved to Brooklyn, didn't know a soul, went to high school, and I just picked up stone carving. I took a course from Jacob Huwells in Lincoln High School. I was scared because I didn't think I was good enough. It's pretty funny. And this teacher really took me on. He saw that I had a natural for forms. I never drew before. I didn't know how to draw. I just started drawing circles and like zigzags on paper. And then I started shading them and seeing forms within my circles, your swirlies on the paper. And I just saw these three-dimensional forms. And the teacher was like, whoa, you got a natural for forms. So then I started doing sculpture. And the first thing I did is a bird with a swan with the head back was the first thing I did. And I just fell in love with it. And that was in 1974. And I've been doing it ever since. My parents, God bless them, they've been very great. They let me take over the entire house. And I mean take over the entire house. The basement, I carved this sculpture, I'll never forget it, African Wonderstone, and trashing the basement. My mother comes down, the steps are white. I said, okay. And she was so cool about it. So, I was always encouraged, and I did it. I did a 7 by 16 foot painting in the living room. I really took over the place.
Yeah, from your Instagram, I'm like looking through your Instagram and you have this reel where you talk about your studio being your sanctuary. And it looks like it's still in the basement. Like, it's interesting
that's
that thread is still there. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
That's my old studio in Brooklyn. My new studio is not in the basement.
Oh.
It's in the garage. And what I did, which was really cool, it had a glass door. Frosted glass door. So I kept the frosted glass door so I got all this natural light coming in. And then I pushed out 2 rooms. So I have 3 rooms.
Nice.
So it's about the same size as Brooklyn, but it seems much bigger because I got a 10-foot ceiling and all the natural light.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
And then, of course, I put an I-beam in the middle. And I went to Precision Stone in Westbury, Long Island, and they had a ventilation system. And I go, okay, what is this system? So I hooked up with the guy, and it took me 6 months, but we designed something that I could fit with residential electricity. So I have this professional stone carver's ventilation with the 3 tubes, and you don't have to change the filters, you just clean them. Like you press a button, they shake, it sounds like a gunfire. I don't do it in the middle of the night, I'll put you that way. We had that experience in Brooklyn once. We don't do things in the middle of the night that that can cause the fire engines to come.
Yeah. Yeah, so the ventilation system, it looks like I saw in some of your Instagram posts that you were talking about the different kinds of stone that you use. There was an African, was it? There's a piece that was, what was it?
African Wonderstone.
African Wonderstone. Anyway, it looks like you use a lot of stone that's not, it's not your typical Indiana limestone or Italian marble or Texas. Like you use a lot of weird stones, and I'd love to hear about all the weird stones.
Well, I love, of course, my favorite is, I love limestone. It's a little gritty to polish because of the, the grains. But I love Carrara marble. That's my favorite. But I do all these other stones because I find them fascinating. But the thing about these other stones is your forms have to be very simple and very severe. You can't do mushy forms or it's not going to work. So, because you want people to look at the sculpture, and if they say, I love your stone, you failed. If they say, I love your form, then you know, okay, you got something. And that's a challenge when you work with the decorative stones.
Okay, I'm confused. So what do you mean? So you're saying when they look at your stone, you want them to see the stone. I'm sorry, you want them to see the form, not the stone? And
correct.
What does that have to do with? Yeah, so say that again, how you carve it so that they see the form and not the stone?
You pick very dramatic forms.
Oh,
you don't do
okay.
something. You don't do something passive. You do something like a knot. There's a lot of negative space, a lot of movement, and you're very strong with your knot. You don't pussyfoot around the stone. You don't you go for draw a line, I cut to the line. If I mess it up, I mess it up.
Okay, so if you have a dramatic pattern in the stone, you have to also have a dramatic form so that the what's going on in the stone is not overpowering what's going on with the form. Is that what you mean?
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I have all of my expression marks. I don't call them abstract, even though they are abstract. I call them expressions because they're all expressions from my gut. Every one of my expression piece comes from a dramatic event in my life. Nothing was done just to be pretty.
So you mean the things like the knot, like when you say expression pieces, you mean like the knot and the bent out of shape and I'm looking at the Instagram ones.
Like in the 80s, I found out that I was blind in one eye, and I didn't know it until I was 16.
Wow.
That sounds weird, but that's what happened. So when I moved to Brooklyn and I go to this eye doctor and he tells me you're 99.9 blind in your right eye, I look at him cross-eyed, like, what are you talking about? And basically I was shocked. So I started doing these sculptures that depict the unbalanced vision. I attacked it with Indiana limestone. Why? Because the stone was a neutral base. It had no color. I can create my forms, and then I can exaggerate the forms with my selected color. And I tinted the stones. In previous years, I tinted paper. I did canvas with tints of oils that made it look like watercolor. I took the same technique and transferred it to stone. And I did my visual series. And basically it was of the nose, because when you're cut off on one side, your nose is cut off. And you see your nose with more magnification. So I'd be looking from the inside out rather than the outside in. And I did about, I don't know how many paintings like this. Then I did sculptures. I did 5. And then I said, okay, Rob, enough with this unbalanced vision. Move on. And then at the same time, I had a detached retina. So when you have it in my blind eye. So when you have a detached retina, you see black. So that makes the nose even stand out more. So all these forms, this is me expressing myself. If people don't know the story behind the work, they say, oh, it's just an abstract piece, but it's not. It's an expression of my immediate line of vision.
We're not
And then,
used to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good. What were you going to ask?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's most of the people we've interviewed so far in the guild are carvers who do a lot of. I mean, it's not that people don't do other kinds of art, but very heavy into the decorative and architectural carving, and so it's just such a. I'm just noticing that it's such a shift to be talking about like art more in a conceptual way. Anyway, it's really, yeah. So, yeah, to talk.
I never did the architecture. I never went down that road.
Yeah.
I was trained as a carver to carve as an artist, I should say. I was trained as an artist. Then I learned the skill of carving along the way. Even though I was carving since I'm 15, every year I would go to another place and keep picking up skills and you keep learning. You never stop learning. But I always did it as my expression, as my passion, and my way of survival. To sculpt is my survival. People ask me, you know, like, you were an artist. I said, at this point in my life, it's not a choice. I have to. If I don't sculpt, I'm a wreck.
So what does that look like in terms of just like daily? Yeah, tell us more. What does that look like? What does the survival look like? What are you responding to and stuff?
Well, I'm just let's think. Okay, going back to 1990. I'm in my studio, full of stone dust. I'm wearing my work gear. I feel strong. Okay? I get a crazy phone call that something crazy happened to one of my children. And I'm like, I can handle this. Little did I know that no, Robin, you cannot handle this. I don't care how strong you feel with your stonework. This is something that's catastrophic. And it took me a while to figure out what it was. Basically, my child was a victim of child molestation. Severe child molestation. And I'm writing a book on it. But the point is, when I'm working in my studio, I felt so strong wearing the work gear and working that I can handle anything. And it sort of gave me my strength. And at one point, when I was really losing it, I did a self-portrait of the teacher and my child. And I did art therapy on myself, and it worked. And I really believe art heals. And that's when I started doing, like years later, when my youngest son, who passed, was having troubles, I did 3 knots in his honor. And I told him, cut the crap out. You drive me crazy. I did 3 knots. And he even wrote about it on his Facebook page. This is what my mother carved. And it was a knot because it showed a knot in my stomach. When you're out of control, you cannot control a situation. And that's how I survive. I express it in stone.
Wow.
I'd like to know more about like just the process from start to finish. So you have an inspiration or something that you feel the need to express. Do you start with sketching? Do you make models? Do you just cut into the stone and start working it out?
Well, when I did those knot pieces, I was in the Colorado mountains and had all the stone in front of me. I went to Marble. I've been going since 2001. And I basically had this knot in my stomach. What am I going to express? A knot. I took a piece of ribbon, I tied a knot, and that was my model.
Okay.
And then I just took this 400-pound piece of watermelon marble, and rough cut a knot. I was there for 3.5 weeks. I rough cut 3 stones. Now, we all know rough cutting is one thing, and then you got to go home to your studio and fine-tune it, and that takes hundreds of hours. But I rough cut 3 stones in that 3.5 weeks, and they're all knots. Made me feel better, and I moved on.
So then on that particular piece, did you then take that back with you to Brooklyn and finish it?
Yes. I had.
And when you're rough cutting, what tools are you using when you rough cut something?
When I'm rough cutting, what tools do I use? Depending on the stone. The watermelon marble was really not a chisel stone, so you had to use a 5-inch diamond blade. And I remember now that I was in such a rage. And you know, when you use a diamond blade, you're not using any safety ring around the blade,
right.
You know, a loose blade. And I remember the blade, I must have tilted my hand or something in the middle of cutting the slice, and the whole machine went flying. And thank God no one got hurt, but it was scary. Like, you have to really respect the tools that you're working with, and you're in a rage, but you have to control it.
Right.
You know, you have to, like, say, hey, this is a deadly tool. Like, you know, don't get all, you know.
Robin, when
don't get casual.
Yeah. When you're going through that process, do you is it just kind of agony or you know, that and that only from start to finish, or do you know, does it start back up in the shop, stop in the shop, or do you just feel that until the piece is done, or, you know, does the knot in the stomach stay until?
Oh no, really, the knot in the stomach is for when you're rough cutting. Once you get the form out, you express yourself, and then you just got to clean it up. For example, of doing something not orthodox or not the way you're supposed to do it, I was carving out David's knot in flames, and there was a hole. Now, we all know how to core a hole. You get a core bit, you get a spotter, you get a bucket of water, and the spotter watches the angle of your core so you come out on the right side. Correct? Everybody knows that's the way to do it, right?
No, I learned something.
I do now.
Okay, so when you want to make a core, you have to have a spotter, because you put the core bit in the drill, you don't know where it's coming out. You have to figure out where, you know,
That
so
makes
someone's
sense,
saying long straight edge, and we'll tell you up, down, and guide you. It's like when you're drilling a hole to mount the piece, you got to use little right angles, and someone spots you and tells you which way to, you know, to tweak it. So when I was doing David's Knot in Flames, it was after my son David passed away. He passed away in October, and this was the following July. I was still angry. And I just took the 5-inch diamond blade and blasted the stone. I didn't do no core bit, I didn't do no measuring, I didn't do nothing. I went, okay, here's the die grinder, and I just went for it. And the hole came out 8 inches too low. And I made it work. And the interesting part, the negative space of that stone was an arrow. So it worked. So, you know, I guess that goes to say, like, sometimes accidents come out for the better.
Yeah.
But,
and you don't really think
so
of
occasionally,
I
was just going to. I've kind of felt like I've had that experience a little bit when sometimes a group of us will get together and we'll just do a carving like event or something, and like if I don't have an idea of what to carve, the first thing I'll do is take my skill saw and just slice into, you know, the surfaces, just almost not randomly, but like just really try to not overthink it and just create a form, just trusting that the accidental is actually your friend in certain situations. You just kind of the challenge of having to work with some of the non-decisions that were made.
Well, that reminds me when I used to do in high school, when I used to just draw the scribbles on the paper and then come up with a form from the scribbles. So, you did it in stone.
So what's the relationship then, Robin, between that kind of carving you're describing that's more intuitive, and then like on your website, there's all of these the shoes and the food and the whole theme of documenting. What do you call it? You said
American culture.
Yeah, but realism.
Contemporary
What kind of
culture.
realism?
Yeah. Okay. So there's two bodies. There's two bodies of work.
Yeah.
Okay. One, I sit in front of the stone and I ponder, and I try to figure out what am I thinking in my brain, what's going on, what emotions am I experiencing, and I carve it. Like during COVID, I carved the studio visitors. I was lonely in my studio. I said, "Oh, let's create visitors," and I cut them out of this really cool blue onyx. Realism. That was a fun one, actually. The realism one, and it made me feel better. Don't laugh. It made me feel better. It worked. Really worked. Or bent out of shape. I did that during COVID because everyone was bent out of shape. So now, the realism is a challenge. It all started that somebody asked me to finish their boot. It was a student. And she goes, "Will you polish it?" And I go to polish it, open up the bag. I said, "Wait a minute, this is not a polish. This is recarving. The form is totally off." So I carved it. It had a little deep cut in the sole, but she made that cut. I had no choice. I made the best of it. And one of my kids, may rest in peace, Leon, my son, the middle guy, says to me, "Ma, why don't you make a Nike sneaker?" So I took the sculpture that I did for this student, and I sent a picture of it to Skechers, a fax. This was back in 93? I don't remember. Okay. They had fax machines. So I faxed it to Skechers. Within 5 minutes, they answered me back. They want it. It took me a month to negotiate terms. And I got the commission. That started my realism line. And then it was really funny because a couple of years ago, somebody contacted me from Skechers and said, "You copyright infringement. It's on your website." I said, "Hello, that was a commission from you." It was really funny. Then 9/11 happened. Oh, then I was doing shoes. Before 9/11, I was doing shoes. And then 9/11 happened. I said, "What is America? What's going on?" Everyone's going to do flags and twin towers and flags with people's names on it. Everyone's going to do that. What is America? America is comfort food. And that's when I came up with the idea of the M&Ms. Actually, I came up with the idea of the potato chips. It was marble 2021, and I ordered a 6,000-pound piece of Carrara marble to carve out a bag of potato chips. So that took a long time to finish. Yuts. I don't know why I brought it back the first year. I should have left it there while I had the machinery. But I finally finished it. It took years because I had to work on it in the garage, and I didn't like working in the garage in Brooklyn. It wasn't so safe because people would come in the garage and steal stuff under your nose. Then I put a gate up so people wouldn't come in and rob bikes while I'm carving. But it took about 10, 12 years, but it finally finished. Now I'm trying to find somebody to silver leaf the inside of the bag. So that's my next challenge. I had a guy, but he just backed out.
Wow.
So, but I made the potato chips. The potato chips are all done. And so that's how realism started. And then I started Milanos and jeans, and then I started doing things in different food groups to prove that I could do things in different food groups. I did clothing, jeans and jacket. I did For cookies, I did Milanos and Oreos. What else did I do? And then I did liquor bottles. That was a challenge. I sold a few of them. Those were a hot number. Everybody liked them. They weren't cheap, but they're a lot of work. So you want them, you got to pay for them. What?
They have anything in them? No.
I don't think you're going to get any liquor out of them. And then came the part where I mixed the two combos together. I mixed the expression and the realism together, and I created the U.S. Constitution in a knot. How the idea popped in my head, I don't know. All the craziness was going on. Everyone's fighting. So I was in Marble, and I was walking, and I said, well, how am I going to mount this U.S. Constitution in my hand? U.S. Constitution in a knot. How am I going to mount it? And the idea just popped in my head. I guess I got a crazy head of two hands holding it up, coming out of the earth, a pile of rocks. And it took a few years because I had to use different technologies to get the thing done. And the place sort of closed down during COVID. I couldn't get any work done. So it took a few years, but I got it done, the U.S. Constitution in a knot. And that goes with what is America now? Everyone's fighting. Trump, boxing gloves, and the Twin Towers is my large bag of M&Ms. And I call that What is Happening Now series. So I try to connect the feelings with the realism.
What about the technical side of, with all the realism things, the making things fit? Yeah, so Matthew had asked what your process was with the stuff you were talking about before, but can you tell us a little bit more about the process with the realism? Like, where do you start? Do you have a model? How do you fit the stone together? How do you choose the different colors of stone? How do you decide when to tint and when to use a color? Yeah, can you tell us about the process of that?
And how do you tint?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My tinting, I developed a recipe back in the 90s or the 80s on paper, canvas, and then I transferred it to stone. The only thing I'm going to say about my tinting recipe, which I made up, is it involves oils. Go do your homework and figure it out the way I did. I experimented. When I was a kid, I used to sell pendants, and I used to make, I'll never forget, $200 was a lot of money back in the 70s. I went to the art store and I bought every kind of material you can imagine and experimented and play. And that's how I came up with the idea. Have had a stain. Getting back to how do I do it? For example, I just got a commission the other day to carve a sneaker. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. Now, I can cheat and give the real sneaker to a guy with a CNC machine, and for a couple $1,000 I'll cut out the thing in one day. But that's not art. I don't mind using the CNC machine if I created the model and I tell you make it 6 feet tall, 5 feet tall. That's a different story. But I'm not going to give them a real sneaker and say copy it. That's like really cheap. So what I do is this one's fun because it's alabaster and it's real soft. Because I gave them the price of marble and alabaster, they choose the alabaster. So I sort of said, okay, this is going to be fun. It's Italian ice. It's like butter. You can't even, it's like you have to be really careful chiseling it because so much comes off. And it's fun. So what I do, since I'm visually impaired, okay, people ask me, how do I sculpt with vision in one eye as opposed to people with vision with two eyes? I can't answer that question because I was born this way, okay? But I'll tell you what I did. I got this tool where it measures the outside shape of the form. And I put that next to the real sneaker. And I can see, okay, the form curves this way, mine curves that way. I look at negative space a lot. And now I'm at the point where I have to fine tune it. It's 1/4 of an inch off. The sole is exactly the same size, but I know exactly what has to be done. when the shoe goes up, the foot, it's too wide. So I have to take off about 1/4 of an inch. But I just slowly, on this piece, I'm just going to sand it because it's so soft.
So you're direct carving just looking at the sneaker as a model?
Correct. But I need the model. Mm-hmm. That's why I did the jacket. I did that way. That's how I do my realism. I put the model in front of me, and I just directly carve it. Mm-hmm. If I have to enlarge it, I use a proportion wheel.
Okay.
Tell us what that is.
A proportion wheel, it's a circle, and you put it on, let's say, how do I describe this? It's a really cool tool. I've been using it since the 80s. All right, I just told you my age. It's a circle, and let's say you want to blow it up 200%, or let's say 75%. So there's 2 wheels, so you look at a 5-inch here, and you go to, when you turn the wheel, okay, scratch that, better way to explain it. Let's say you want one plane to be 5 inches, and you want to make it to be 7 inches. So you move the 5 to the 7, okay? Mm-hmm. Then you keep you put a piece of tape on that wheel so it doesn't move. So now you have the proportions that you're enlarging. So now any dimension on your original, if it's 3 inches, you go on the wheel and you look 3, and then, that will give me 6. So I know awesome. 3 to 6.
That's great.
It's a very cool tool.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. That's
just increases
really,
by percentage. Nice.
Well, it looks like you can, if you say you want to blow something up 135%, then you just dial that in, and it gives you all of the ratios. That's really cool.
Order.
Yeah, right. I'm going to go to.
No, it's not inexpensive. It's a couple $1 thing.
Yeah, right. No, it looks like you could make one if you were really nerdy, or you.
You got to be really accurate. I wouldn't bother making.
Yeah.
Hey, Robin, we've talked a lot about pointing machines and such on this podcast. Have you ever used one? Any interest or no?
No, actually, I wanted to. No, I'm very curious to take. I was thinking of taking just like a porcelain head or something, and I want to experiment and just do it with a crappy, junky stone and just go for the dot and see how it happens. Not seriously, because I know I would get all bent out of shape and I get all serious, and it would, But I said once I wanted to try it.
Maybe it could inspire a stone carving after the experience, just from just from what the emotions brought on by it. I don't know.
It's sort of what I do with the measuring, but it's not exactly. See, I got this sneaker 90% rough cut. I would say 90%. But I know it's off, so I got to go each plane with this machine, with this little hand thing. It has these metal things, and I'm just going to go inch by inch around the side of the sneaker and mark it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I'm looking at the Heinz ketchup bottle and thinking, I know you don't want to give the formula for your tinting, but
that's not tinted. That's
what I was about to ask. It looks like it's layered on top of it. Is that what's going on there?
You mean the label?
The labels.
No, that's red travertine. The labels.
No, I mean the labels.
Every label's different. That particular label is a real label.
That's a label. Okay, gotcha. So that's a label you just lifted off of a bottle, or did you make? Is it to scale? Okay.
No, the bottle's 30 inches high. How's that going to lift?
Yeah, right. So tell what's going on there.
What's going on there? Right there. Actually, I think with Heinz, every company's different. Heinz actually gave me a PDF, and I blew it up. But it was a little tricky because when I carved that stone, I shouldn't have carved that stone. I was in a rage. And it wasn't 100% perfect, and I had to make it as perfect as it can be. Because you can't... I was in the mountains when I did it, and you don't carve symmetrical when you're working on dunnage. It's just extremely hard.
When you're working on dunnage?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm sorry.
When you're working on dunnage, you're working on these railroad track woods. And
Okay.
And that's going to stack up that's basically your work desk.
Okay, all right.
But it's not symmetrical, it's not balanced, there's no right angle, so it's very hard to measure. So I learned after that year, I don't remember what happened, but I remember I was upset about something. And I learned after that year, you don't carve anything symmetrical in the mountains. That's dumb. It just doesn't work. Do something that doesn't have to be perfectly straight, like a ketchup bottle. Anyway, so the label was a little tricky to put on because it was slightly off, but I did it.
Plus, it's got an adhesive on the back.
Right, but you had to use a hair blower, I think.
Oh, to cure it.
No, to stretch it. To stretch or shrink it, you had to use a hair blower.
Oh.
You could have fooled me that it's not symmetrical from the pictures I'm seeing. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
No, it's pretty good. I mean, if it's an inch off, that's enough for the label to be tricky.
And what stone
I
is
know
that?
I'm not supposed to admire the choice of stone, but you really nailed the color of the ketchup. That's pretty...
What kind of stone is that?
Well, the bottom was red travertine.
Okay.
And the top, because I was a lunatic, and I didn't want to use Colorado Yule because I said, I got to use Carrera. So I used Carrera for the top.
Cool.
Oh.
How did you settle on the red travertine? And I'm just really fascinated with all of the different kinds of stones that you use. Like, for instance, one of your recent reels had pictures of, what did you call them? Your little treasures or something? And you had fluoride? And I mean,
fluoride.
Where do you get these things?
I have a supplier, I can give you his name. His name is Miles from Two Sculpt. And he gets me all these crazy stones. Like, he had the blue onyx, and you can't get it anymore. So I said, Miles, how much blue onyx you have? He goes, I got a pallet. I said, send me. I'm definitely a stone junkie,
Yeah.
So I have the fluoride, and I have a lot of blue onyxes, but the problem is they're all small. The fluoride is tricky to carve because you cannot hit it with a hammer. So basically, you have to, now I don't know how you carve, but I carve like the onyxes, I slice thin slices, and then I pitch.
Okay.
And it's so tempting to pitch. So when you do these fluorides, you can't pitch because the whole stone will crumble. So I literally, and I'm not kidding, I take all the hammers out of the room because you're too tempted to use it. And I made, there's a piece called Catch Me If You Can, or Run and Hide. And that's out of a bonded fluoride. I have a few others. I don't know what to make with them. One of them I just love the way it is, and I put a seal on it, called it River. But I have a few pieces. I got to figure out what to do with them because they're not that big, and the smaller the stone is, it's tricky to figure out what to do with it. Like I had this.
Go ahead.
I had this stone. I forgot the name of it. I think it's something with a T, and it's white, and it's a pearl finish, and it's a triangle shape. Couldn't figure out what to do with it. Then I got this commission for the sneaker. I said, "Ooh, I'm going to make a sneaker out of it because it's the only thing that's going to fit, and it'll be cool." But it's like the smaller sizes are tricky to figure out what to do.
I find myself like scared sometimes to say, I don't know if is this allowed in stone carving? Am I allowed to carve in this type of rock or whatever? But then seeing you, I'm inspired by, and then it leads to the question: do you always have a point of reference saying, yeah, this is how you carve in this, or do you just have to sometimes just say, I don't know how this is done, I'm just going to have to take a whack at it? Or do you pretty much know what you're doing, but when you're going into
at this point, I know what stones you can hit with a hammer and what stones you can't hit with a hammer, which stones you could chisel, I love my favorite tool, go-to tool, is a Trout and Holden air hammer.
Trout and Holden what?
I love the 3/4 inch, the 1 inch, the air hammer.
Oh, the air. Okay.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, Matthew.
You guys don't like, okay, you like hand tools.
Yeah.
I love the air hammer. What do you want?
I'm
That's
looking
my
at mine
favorite.
right now, actually. Very good.
I love my air hammer. In fact, when I was doing this sneaker, just now the owl bands, it was so much fun because I was using the bantam, and the bantam was like a joke, So you don't even need gloves. I put on hearing protection because I'm half deaf from this crap anyway. So that I put on, and eye protection, of course. But it was so much fun because you didn't have to it was like this little air hammer, and it was cutting through the stone. It was like I was having a blast.
What diameter is that? Or what is that, a half inch or?
No, 1/4 inch chisels.
A 1/4 inch. Wow.
The bantam. It's called the bantam.
Yeah. And does it take a smaller shank on the
Yeah,
chisel?
it's a 1/4 inch shank.
Oh, okay. Cool. Wow.
It's fun. It's good for detailing. When I did a sculpture of 22 bunches of grapes, which I finally finished from 1992, I used it. But another trick, I'm going to tell you a trick that I used for the grapes from Scott Owens. Taught me this. I took a chisel that was a gouge that goes up, like a half circle. Mm-hmm. Turn it upside down, and you can carve a grape.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
By hand. That was Indiana limestone. I did it by hand. That I used a lot of hand tools on.
I have a chisel in my shop I call the grape maker. It's perfect.
Scott Owens gave me that idea. He was a funny guy.
Since we're talking some exotic rocks, is there anything that you've carved and you say, I'll never carve that again? Or
yeah,
I used to.
The Yule marble with a green coloring.
Oh.
What do you not like about it?
I rough cut the thing. I was fine. When it came to finishing, I broke out in such a rash.
Oh.
So I won't carve that, and I won't carve the African Wonderstone.
Oh.
And I don't carve soapstone. I don't touch it.
Oh.
All for the same reasons, or?
Soapstone, because I know it has talc and it's not so healthy.
Oh.
Serpentine I did in high school. Well, you don't get that anymore. It can have asbestos. African Wonderstone, they say, is not so good. Pipestone I won't touch. It's 100% silica.
Oh.
What else? You have to know. I said this in one of my videos. You really have to do your homework.
Right.
Before you pick up a stone, you have to know what you're carving.
Yeah, for sure.
I had this 500-pound block of this purple stuff, and it had these iridescent green lines going through it. And it was really cool. And one year I'm in the mountains, and some guy's carving the stone, and he goes, I won't polish it. I won't carve this thing unless it's wet. I said, why? He goes, it has asbestos. I said, great, I got a 500-pound block. So now, when I moved to Brooklyn, I moved out of Brooklyn, I must have had 50,000 pounds of stone in my garage. I'm not kidding. So all the stuff that was toxic, I paid a guy and told him give it to the dump. I wouldn't give it to another artist. I had blocks of slate from Vermont. From 2002, I went to Vermont and I bought all this slate. I had pipestone. I had this purple stone. And I just paid somebody, put it in the dump. And
What's wrong with slate?
I don't know, they say it's toxic.
Oh.
Well.
And that guy there's a guy, a Brooklyn artist.
Good to know.
Brooklyn artist who passed away. He did really cool work from slate and bluestone. And I said, okay, I'm not doing this stuff. And it seemed like it'd be fun to work with because when I was in marble, I saw people do reliefs from it. This one artist does reliefs, but I never did it because, I don't know. I didn't want to deal with it. Or granite. I won't deal with granite.
Yeah,
so
granite.
if your concern is that, so when Joel said what stone would you not work in, so there's the stones that are toxic, it sounds like you're saying. Are there other stones where just to work with it was too difficult or problematic and you wouldn't want to deal with that again?
Well, the fluoride, because you can't hit it with a hammer, and you can't get it hot. If you get it hot, it loses color.
That's interesting.
I also need to ask, I hope this is okay, guys, but can you tell us the story of the MAGA hat?
Okay, MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Why did I do the MAGA hat? Mm-hmm. What is going on in America?
There's
rhetorical
some people wearing
question,
MAGA
actual
hats.
question.
That's going on.
What is going on in America? Why did I do the U.S. Constitution and not? I do what I see in front of my face, and that's what's going on in America. I don't do it because I love Trump. I don't do it because I hate Trump. I don't tell people whether I love Trump or hate Trump. No, I don't discuss politics. What do I do? I do what's going on in America. The Constitution is in a knot. Trump. There's boxing gloves. There's 9/11 with the Twin Towers. Okay, the M&Ms. I observe American culture. As an artist, I'm an observer. So that's what I'm trying to tie the two pieces, the two things together, the expressions and the realism, by being an observer, but being a little more out there with what I pick in realism, like the MAGA hat, the Constitution, and not. It's being an observer.
So maybe part of what I'm asking is like, it said on your website that like you got some pushback from the gallery about that. Like, how do you navigate? Like you said, you did it because this is what's going on. How do you navigate what you just like? Getting away with it isn't quite the word I'm looking for, but so what do you say to the gallery owner who's like, oh well, we don't want to alienate people, or how do you do that?
He was really funny. Like at the time, it wasn't funny, but now I look back and I said this was really funny. And he goes, some of our prominent collectors don't want to shop by us because they say one of their artists is a Trump supporter. And I go, well, who sent him? And then like an idiot, I took it off my website and I made a comment. This piece was removed because of outrageous, whatever. And it was dumb of me to take it off because now I put it back on because I say I am observing what's going on. This is what's going on in America. And I don't care whether you like Trump or hate Trump. I don't really care. Okay? This is what's going on in America.
Were you surprised that there was such a...
I was laughing. Now I think it's funny.
But at the time, did it surprise you?
Yeah, I don't know. And then something happened once. I don't remember. He did something really outrageous, and this is in his first presidency. He did something outrageous, and that's just when I posted it, and I got like tons of people dropped me on Instagram, and it was like fighting back and forth on the post. And I said, okay, this is what it's about. People are fighting. This, at least the work's getting attention. And then I put it in archives, and then I finally said, okay, Robin, you're not doing this. You're going to just post it. And I unarchived all the Trump things, but the reaction is really funny. I mean, I just laugh now because all I'm doing is saying what's going on in America.
Well, it kind of ties, I guess, to this next question, and it's less about how do you deal with the controversy, but any advice on how to be your own advocate, get your name out there, sort of, approach these different things, approaching galleries. I think from your work and from your portfolio, it's unique, but also you've told your story pretty well. Any advice on how to do that?
You mean how to tell your story or how to approach the selling?
How to get the word out?
All of the questions, I guess. Yeah, how to get your own word out there.
Well, it's like I consider like boxing gloves. I punch in 50 different directions, something's going to land. For example, this little commission that I got for the sneaker came because I sold somebody something 10 years ago. I used to do these decorative items. It was started as a joke. And I did these salt cellars. And it started as a joke. And then people were buying them. So I had 4 people working for me, literally. And I was selling, maybe I sold 200 of these salt cellars. And this was an experience because it was really an education. What I did was I don't deliver. You want them, you have to come to the studio. Why? I want you to see the sculptures. Maybe you'll buy a sculpture. Buy something for $150, maybe you'll buy a sculpture for $1,000 or something. So the interesting thing was that people never went from the salt cellar to the sculpture. They'd buy a bowl for $4,000 or $5,000, but they wouldn't buy a sculpture for $1,000. So it was just an education. It was an interesting thing. And somebody who bought the salt cellars, she bought like 5 or 6 of them. She gave them away as gifts. And somebody she gave it a gift to, the son, fell in love with it and contacted me for a sneaker. So I thought that was pretty funny. And it's just like you keep punching in different directions. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I might sell 6 pieces on First Dibs. Who knows? You know, I have my work on First Dibs, and you don't know when a sale's going to come. You don't know what's going to come. You just keep punching.
I've never heard of First
appreciate
Dibs.
You never heard of what?
First Dibs.
Oh, First Dibs is a website that sells high-end art and all kinds of stuff.
Cool.
You can't go on it. You have to have a gallery go on it.
Gotcha.
It's like artsy.
And we haven't even gotten into the gallery side of it
Yeah.
yet.
The gallery side is tricky because every time I put stuff in galleries, it gets messed up. They chip it. It's dirty. They don't. You know, one time I had a gallery return something and it had spackling all over it. So you have to be careful with sculptures that galleries respect the work. And it's tricky to ship sculptures. I don't ship sculptures like my jacket. I'm not shipping unless it's sold.
So where do you store all this stuff?
I moved out of Brooklyn, and I bought a very double-sized house in Jersey. And I'm doing fundraisers.
Nice.
I'm doing, so the sculpture that I did when I was in high school, when I was 16, I did it 5 feet tall, and it's going to be donated to the community center a couple blocks from me in memory of my parents.
Nice.
Wow. Very nice.
My son Leon passed away, and I did a sculpture in his memory. And that's how I survive all the, I don't want to say mushigash, but all the stuff that happens is I pour everything in the work. I don't know where Leon's sculpture is. I got a commitment, but I don't want to say yet until things get a little more solid. But the other son that passed away, his sculpture is in the Zucker Hillside Hospital in Glen Oaks.
What a tribute.
Yeah, wow, it really does
Robin,
seem like you're punching in 50 different directions.
Well, yeah, I am punching in 50 directions.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting the monumental world, okay? I mean, I got on New York 1 for David's piece in Glen Oaks. I don't know what's going to happen with my mother's piece or Leon's piece, but so that's a monumental world. Then I got the realism world, and then I got the expression world.
Probably do a podcast on each one of those.
For sure.
I know.
That's what I was
So
going
we
to say.
should wrap up today.
But we'd love for you to come
Yeah.
back at some point and, kind of keep us updated on how things are going and
Yeah.
what's new in your corner of the woods.
And thank you
I
so
can't-
much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you. I can't wait to the annual. I'm going to the annual. I booked it.
I was going to ask, will
Oh,
we
good.
see you at the annual meeting? Good.
Great.
Yes, I finally can make it.
That's
Good.
exciting
Good,
because I've known of you for years and years and years, and I've never really gotten a chance to talk to you. So today's been a real pleasure.
Oh, Matthew, I'm going to see what you look like.
What?
And Robin, before we go, I want to know what your favorite food is.
Actually, I don't eat anything I carve. Condiments. I hate condiments. I don't eat hamburgers. I'm a vegetarian. I don't call myself a vegetarian because I do eat meat like once in a blue moon. But I feel much better. I feel 100% better when I eat the plant-based diet.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, Robin's email signature is what kind of food do you... What is it? What kind of food? What's your favorite food?
What's your favorite food?
What's your favorite food? Because that's what she calls.
And the first time I saw an email from Robin, I was like, well, I'll respond. And now I'm got to figure out what my favorite food is.
Well, you know what it is?
Like,
my sister told me to put that, actually. And she goes, ask people what their favorite food is. And it's really funny, the engagement you get from that. It's really funny. That's part of my signature. And people go, why do you ask what my favorite food is? I guess my favorite food is vegetarian. I love eating a good salad. You know, I told you, I don't eat what I carve.
It took me a while to realize that was in your automatic signature, and I kept wondering, like, why does Robin keep asking?
Did I miss this conversation?
Me what my favorite food is?
I thought the same thing, but that's a good note to end on, I think.
You've been listening to the Stonecarvers Guild podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and we hope that you will find us online at stonecarversguild.org. There you can find photos showing some of the things that we discussed today, additional information about our guest, and if you're so inclined, ways to get more involved with the Guild and our ongoing activities. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, we hope that you will subscribe and rate us on the podcaster of your choice. 5 stars, please. We'll be back in a month with a new episode, so until then, keep your hammer up and your chisel sharp.
The views and opinions expressed in the podcast do not necessarily reflect that of the Stonecarvers Guild. This content is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening.